We hear more and more about organized sports activities for young people with physical disabilities. Sled hockey is a brand new sport here in western Pennsylvania. Let's learn about the Mighty Penguins sled hockey program here at the UPMC Lemieux Sports Complex in Cranberry Township. So let's find out what sled hockey is. Michelle Humphreys is with us. She's the executive director of the Mighty Penguins sled hockey organization. Sled hockey it's something new. We've never heard of this before. What is it?
It's an opportunity for people who have physical disabilities to get out on the ice, play the game they love, just like their heroes do, the Pittsburgh Penguins and other players, with very little differences, just sitting in a sled. Rules are the same, and it gives them an outlet for competition and a fun place to come and be social and meet some friends.
What kind of physical disabilities are we talking about?
All physical disabilities. We have kids who were born with cerebral palsy, spina bifida. We serve kids who've had injuries, spinal cord injuries. We have adults who've had spinal cord injuries later in life. We've had kids who've had traumatic events after they were born, so it's not just birth defects. We serve anybody who can't use their legs to stand up and play hockey.
Michelle, what's the relationship between the Pittsburgh Penguins and this organization?
This organization was founded in 1998 here in Pittsburgh with the help of the Shriners Hospital in Erie. About 5 years ago, the Pittsburgh Penguins got involved, and the Pittsburgh Penguins Foundation has graciously helped support our team. They give us a grant to help support the ice time costs because it's very expensive to play sled hockey between the equipment, the sleds, the gear, the jerseys, and just the ice time costs. It takes a lot to run this club. So the Pittsburgh Penguins stepped in, and they've been proud supporters of our program, and we're very grateful to have their support.
Now, you have a son who's involved, I understand?
I do. So my son James started playing 5 years ago. I have 4 boys. 3 play here at the Pittsburgh Penguins elite teams, and then my little boy James plays here for the Mighty Penguins sled hockey team. So he saw his brothers at the rink. He grew up at the rink and ran around and watched them play hockey and wanted to play. And we happened to be at a Penguins tournament down at Consol, and one of my friends said, there's sled hockey. You can get him involved. And so we put him on the ice, and he loved it and never looked back. So he's involved. My children are involved. It's great for him. It gives him confidence. It gives him a place to come and be athletic like his brothers. And he plays the game just like they do. Same rules, same penalties. There's no adaptations besides sitting in a sled.
Amy Brown is the president of Mighty Penguins sled hockey. Amy, how long have you been involved with this organization?
We've been involved in the organization for about 6 years now.
Now, this was because of your son. Tell us how he was affected and how that led to sled hockey.
Sure. My son Alex, who's now 11 years old, when he was 4, he had a spontaneous spinal epidural hematoma. So he had a bleed in his spinal column, which they aren't sure what it caused it. Prior to that, he was taking stand-up hockey lessons because he really wanted to be a hockey player. And after his hospital stay, which was very lengthy, it was about 7 months, while he was in the hospital, he got to meet Kelsey DeClaudio, who's one of the ranked women's USA sled hockey players. And she stopped by and met him and told him about sled hockey. And so we started soon after he came home.
I understand your husband is a coach here. In fact, he's on the ice right now, isn't he?
Yes, my husband, Eric, he started coaching a few years ago. They needed someone to help, and he was right there to do it.
How did he know how to be a coach? Was he a hockey player?
He's always been a coach. He's coached a variety of different sports, and when Alex got sick, he switched to adaptive sports.
Amy Brown is the president. We talked with her earlier, and Eric is her husband, and he's the junior head coach here. Eric, how did you get to be a coach?
Well, when my son got injured back in 2009, we were looking for a sport for him to play, and we just so happened to find out about the Mighty Penguins sled organization. So initially, I was just a parent watching my son on the ice, but they always needed volunteers, so I ended up putting skates on and helping out. And through attrition, people leaving and the need for more coaches, I applied for the job, went and got my certification through USA Hockey, and I've been doing it now for about 3 to 4 years.
Were you a hockey player before this?
No, I was not a hockey player. I loved hockey, but I was more of a wrestler in high school.
Now, how was it out here? We've been watching a lot of activity in the last 45 minutes, lots of kids on the ice. How do you go about separating the different talents and working with them?
It really does go with experience. If they're just new to the organization, we put them at the novice level. And if they have that experience and they feel comfortable out there, they can move up to my level, which is the junior level. Now, they're at the junior level until they're 18 years old. Once they hit 18, and if they're not able to go to the adult league, then they go to the intermediate. So the intermediate consists of 18-year-olds and older, consisting of individuals who are not able to play at the adult level.
Now, this is all voluntary, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
You work with a lot of different kids out there. Can you tell in the beginning when one of the youngsters first starts that they really have an extra talent?
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, you could see some kids pick up the game, at least the knowledge of the game and understanding it. But then there's other kids that blossom later on. So you'll be surprised to see how kids can develop once they get some instruction.
When the kids start here, do many of them stay with it for a number of years?
They do. And I think the one reason why that is that the Mighty Penguins organization is really like a family. You know, you have people to talk to about the situation you're in, but it's also an opportunity for the kids to grow. So not many people leave the organization once they join.
Well, you're in an operation here that's owned by the Penguins, run by the Penguins. The Penguins practice out here. Do the kids ever meet some of the Penguins?
They do. We're very fortunate the Pittsburgh Penguins volunteer their time at least once or twice a year. We have Chris Kunis as an ambassador to our team, so he's been very helpful in raising money for their organization. And so, yes, the Penguins have been great to us, and the kids love them when they come out onto the ice.
The founder of Mighty Penguins Sled Hockey is Angie McCoy. Angie, where did you get the idea for all of this?
Well, a lot of this is because of Shriners Hospital for Children. I should take a step back, though. 22 years ago, I was pregnant with my second child, and we learned that he was going to have spina bifida. And we knew that was a physical disability. We decided to carry on with the pregnancy. At the time, I had a 3-year-old son as well. And as he was growing up, my child Daniel with spina bifida, I could tell he wanted to do everything his brother wanted to do. And as his brother Andrew was getting into different sports, whether it be baseball, basketball, Daniel wanted to participate. At the time, Daniel was using a walker and leg braces to get around. And it was probably around when Andrew was 8 years old that he decided he wanted to try hockey, stand-up hockey. So he started hockey, and he's a boy who has to work hard at his athletics. As he's working hard and playing games, we found Daniel would be on the sidelines giving Andrew tips on how to play the game.
Instinctively, he knew something about hockey?
Instinctively, he had that athletic mind.
Now, with spina bifida, what kind of restrictions did he have physically?
Well, physically, he's basically paralyzed from the knees down, and there's some partial paralysis in his upper legs. In addition, he has hydrocephalus, which means there's fluid buildup on the brain that's controlled by a shunt.
And with all of that, he instinctively knew something about hockey.
Yes, he did. And the minute Shriners Hospital came to Pittsburgh and said they were going to introduce this new sport called sled hockey to the area, we jumped on it. We went to the shrine off of 28 in Cheswick, and they outfitted all these little kids with this equipment. Daniel did not like it at first. He was 5 or 6 years old. He looked like a tick about to pop with all the hockey gear on. We sat him in a sled. He got on the ice, and at first he was like, I want to play the game like my brother. I want to play standing up. It took a few times, and something clicked. And we realized, along with several other parents, that this wasn't just therapy, because Shriners was coming into Pittsburgh to do therapy every other week. We were realizing there was a set of kids that wanted to play this competitively. And so the group of us, a group of parents, we decided to get together and take this to a new level. We asked Shriners for help, but from there, we took ownership of when the practices were, and slowly more and more kids started coming out, and that's how the organization was born. It was just a bunch of parents who saw something in their kids happen when they played this sport.
Now let's talk with Dan McCoy. He has been playing since age 6. How old are you now?
I'm 22.
Do you remember the early days when you first started learning sled hockey?
Bits and pieces of it, not a whole lot. I can just remember I really didn't like it at first. You know, the gear was heavy. It was really cold on the ice. It wasn't the hockey I had been watching over the years that my brother had been playing. and just things like that. But a few years into it, I kind of got the bug and started to enjoy it.
Well, when you realized you had spina bifida and you had certain disabilities that you couldn't do what other kids could do, was that pretty frustrating for you?
Yes and no. I think for me, at least from what I can remember of growing up with a disability, I didn't really look at myself as having a disability. I was able to use a wheelchair, with leg braces, crutches. I was able to use these things that I thought were pretty cool that I didn't really see anybody else using. So I thought, hey, I'm pretty cool. I'm using things and doing things not a lot of other people are getting to do. So I thought of it, and I still do today. I have always thought of having a disability as a blessing rather than a burden or anything like that. So.
When did you start realizing that maybe you were going to be very good at this sport?
I don't know if I ever hit a point where I thought I was going to be very good at it, but when I was about 8 years old, I saw the Paralympic team in 2002 win the gold medal in Salt Lake City. And at that point, I had known a lot of the guys playing on that team, and I told my parents I wanted to be just like them and go for a gold medal in the Paralympics. So I worked from age 8 years old to age 14 to make the junior national team at the time, which was just one step below the national team. And at age 16, I was selected as a member of the national sled hockey team in the summer of 2010 at that point. And, worked for 4 years as hard as I could to make every team every year. And in 2014, I was selected to be a part of the Paralympic sled hockey team to go over to Sochi, Russia, and eventually win a Paralympic gold medal.
Well, let's talk about that. When you first found out that maybe you might become eligible to play in the Olympics over in Sochi, Russia, what went through your mind?
A lot of different things. I had flashbacks of when I started, everything it took to get to that point, everything my family and I have sacrificed because it wasn't just me. Going out on the ice, going to the gym, things like that. My family had to give up a lot to be able to help me achieve my dream. So. I was very blessed and very grateful to have that opportunity, and it's tough to really put into words, the emotions and everything that I was feeling. But
who were the other players on the team? Where were they from?
From all over the country, pretty much. We had players from as far west as Colorado, and as far east as up in New England. So at that point, I was the only player from Pittsburgh, from Pennsylvania, on the Paralympic team. But the sport's still growing today, so I'm sure we'll see more in the future.
Were there semifinals, elimination games before you played the final?
Yeah, so there were 5 total games in Russia. We played three preliminary games and then a semifinal game and then a final.
Did you know at some point that you're going to win this thing?
After the semifinal game, we played Canada and won 3-0 against them. At that point, obviously, we knew we were going to be either a gold medalist or silver medalist at that point, and I felt really relieved at that point. I felt like I had reached this point and my dream was kind of coming true, and I had a chance to really realize my dream of winning a gold medal. But it wasn't until our assistant captain at the time, Josh Sweeney, scored the only goal in the gold medal game in the second period to give us the 1-0 lead and eventually win us the game that we kind of realized that we were going to have it.
So here's a wonderful program for those youngsters with physical disabilities called the Mighty Penguins Sled Hockey Program here in Cranberry Township. I'm Larry Berg. We'll see you next time on Faces and Places.